So today's December 3rd, 2025.
Joy.
Joy. Yeah. Okay. It's my birthday, and we're going to talk about that. Yeah. And I'm not the only one here whose birthday it is. We have from California, we have a visitor online. Ritik and I share a birthday.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Coming from California. Now Ritik might be a little older than me, but still, it's December 3rd. Like that.
A little bit.
Just a little, yeah.
Minutes or years?
Yeah. Okay. So, Narayanam Namaskritanaram Chaivinotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatojayam Dhira. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevi Bhagavat Yutamashloki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Now we're reading from Sri-Caitanya-caritamrta today, and then we did some of the Bhagavatam invocations because we're reading from a verse in Chaitanya-caritamrta that Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, he's quoting directly from the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. So it's like both Chaitanya-caritamrta and Bhagavatam. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Beta Chandra Jai Gora Bhakta Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Beta Chandra Jai Gora Bhakta Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Beta Chandra Jai Gora Bhakta Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Beta Chandra Jai Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Beta Chandra Jai Gora Bhakta Vrinda. So reading from Sri-Caitanya-caritamrta, Adi-lila, chapter 1, entitled The Spiritual Masters, and like in discussions on Guru Tattva, there's so many places in Prabhupada's teaching, but this would be like the chapter on that, the verses and purports. And we'll get into that a bit. So this is text 46, which is also Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 17, text 27, spoken by Krishna himself. Okay, so 1.46, and we'll start with the word. That's the Sanskrit words responsively. Acharyam, mam, bijaniyat. Na avan manyeta karhi chit na marchabudya asuyeta sarvadeva maya guru. Okay, we'll do one line at a time. Acharya mam vijaniyan Navamanyeta karhi chit Namarcha Budya Suyeta Sarvadeva Mayo Guru Acharya Mam Vijaniyan Navamanyeta karhi chit Namarcha Budya Suyeta Sarvadeva Mayo Guru Acharya Mam Vijaniyan Navamanyeta karhi chit Namarcha Budya Suyeta Sarvadeva Mayo Guru
Acharyamam vijaniyan Navamanyata karhi chit Namarcha Buddha Suyeta Sarvadeva Mayo Guru
Sarvadeva Mayo Guru
Charyamam Vijaniyam.
Acharya-mam vijaniyam.
Karchit.
Navamanyeta karhichit.
Namarcha Pudya Suyeta.
Namarcha puja suyeta.
Deva.
Sarvadeva mayo guru.
Charyamam Vijaniyam.
Acharya-mam vijaniyam.
Karchit.
Navamanyeta karhichit.
Suyeta.
Namarcha puja suyeta. Sarvadeva mayo guru.
Charyamam Vijaniyam.
Acharya-mam vijaniyam.
Manyeta Karchit.
Navamanyeta karhichit.
Suyeta.
Namarcha puja suyeta.
Deva Mayo.
Sarva Deva Mayo Guru.
Charyamam Vijaniyam.
Charyamam vijaniyam.
Manyeta Karchit.
Navyamanyeta karhichit.
Namarta Pudya Suyeta.
Namarcha puja suyeta.
Sarvadeva.
Sarvadeva Mayo Guru.
Acharyan mam vijaniyam.
Charyamam vijaniyam.
Navamanyeta karhichit.
Navamanyeta karhichit.
Namarcha budya suyeta.
Namarcha puja suyeta.
Sarvadeva mayo guru.
Sarvadeva Mayo Guru. Hare Krishna. So we'll look at the word meanings and just so we're here with the context. So Atmananda, thanks for joining us there from the North Island of New Zealand, and Fabiana from Switzerland. No, you're in South America now, actually. She's in Peru, I think. Okay, but traveling there from Switzerland, and James from West Coast, and Ritik from West Coast, Rukmini and Anasuya from an exotic place called Alachua County, Florida. Oh, okay. And so, all right. Acharya, the spiritual master.
Spiritual master.
Mom,
Myself.
myself. Vijaniya.
Vijani.
One should know.
Vijana.
Na avamanyeta.
Na.
One should never disrespect.
One should never disrespect.
Karhichit.
Karhichit.
At any time.
Anytime.
Na.
Na.
Never.
Never.
Marcha Buddha.
Marcha Puja.
With the idea of his being an ordinary man.
With the idea of being an ordinary man.
Asuyeta.
Asuyeta.
One should be envious.
One should be envious.
Sarvadeva.
Sarvadeva.
Of all demigods.
All demigods.
Maya.
Maya.
Representative.
Representative.
Guru.
Guru.
The spiritual master.
Spiritual master.
Translation. So this is Krishna speaking to Uddhava in the Bhagavatam. One should know the Acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man, for he is the representative of all the demigods. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:17-27, spoken by Lord Krishna when he was questioned by Uddhava regarding the four social and spiritual orders of society. He was specifically instructing how a brahmachari should behave under the care of a spiritual master. A spiritual master is not an enjoyer of facilities offered by his disciples. He is like a parent. Without the attentive service of his parents, a child cannot grow to manhood. Similarly, without the care of the spiritual master, one cannot rise to the plane of transcendental service. The spiritual master is also called Acharya, or a transcendental professor of spiritual science. The Manu Samhita 2.140 explains the duty of an Acharya, describing that a bona fide spiritual master accepts charge of disciples, teaches them the Vedic knowledge with all its intricacies, and gives them their second birth. So that's a reason I chose this verse, talking about a second birth. This morning I chose a different verse from Bhagavatam about the second birth. So Srila Prabhupada continues. So let's just contemplate that as we're absorbed in Prabhupada's purport. Second birth, what's the meaning of that? The ceremony performed to initiate a disciple into the study of spiritual science is called upaniti, or the function that brings one nearer to the spiritual master. One who cannot be brought nearer to a spiritual master cannot have a sacred thread, and thus he is indicated to be a Shudra. The sacred thread on the body of a Brahmin, Kshatriya, or Vaishya is a symbol of initiation by the spiritual master. It is worth nothing if worn merely to boast of high parentage. The duty of the spiritual master is to initiate a disciple with the sacred thread ceremony, and after this samskar, or purificatory process, the spiritual master actually begins to teach the disciple about the Vedas. A person born a Sudra is not barred from such spiritual initiation, provided he is approved by the spiritual master, who is duly authorized to award a disciple the right to be a Brahmin. If he finds him perfectly qualified, in the Vayu Purana, an acharya is defined as one who knows the import of all Vedic literature, explains the purpose of the Vedas, abides by the rules and regulations, and teaches his disciples to act in the same way. Only out of his immense compassion does the personality of Godhead reveal himself as the spiritual master. Therefore, so just the super soul in the heart, a name for super soul is Chaitya Guru, super soul in the heart. And then the let's call it Srila Prabhupada, our current link to the Parampara, is the external manifestation, whether in Murti form, in his vibration, in his lectures, and appearing to us in dreams. So it's the external representation of super soul. So, because we can say, well, how do I know what super soul is saying? Read Bhagavad Gita as it is. That's what super soul is saying. So I'll make that distinction here. So sometimes it's talking about spiritual master in the plural, and then there's a spiritual master in the singular. That spiritual teacher in whom we endeavor to have unconditional, absolute faith. Just like we sing every morning, Yasya Prashada, Bhagavat Prashado, Yasya Prashada, Nagati Kutopi, Dayam Stuvam, Yasya Yashastri Sandhyam, Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda. So that without the grace of the spiritual master, we don't advance in Krishna consciousness. That's in essence of what that text says. So, okay, so we have many spiritual teachers. To demystify the term guru, just basically teacher, like that. So I know for myself presently and over the past 45 years, I've had many spiritual teachers who've helped me in my Krishna consciousness in profound ways. I'm forever grateful to them. And some of them I'm still in contact with, some of them not. Some of them might be rigorous in their practice of bhakti, some of them not. I'm forever grateful to them. Okay, so I've met that spiritual master in the plural. And then the system that Krishna arranges, there needs to be, I'll call it a spiritual master in the singular. That spiritual master, without whose grace I'm finished. Without whose grace I'm finished. My progress is stopped. My progress in spiritual life is stopped. So that spiritual master for me is Srila Prabhupada. And I encourage, a big part of my mission is to support you to create that relationship with Prabhupada, that he's that spiritual master, that without whose, by his grace, we advance in Krishna consciousness. Okay, and all right, so I'll continue reading here. Therefore, in the dealings of an acharya, there are no activities but those of transcendental loving service to the Lord. He is the supreme personality of servitor Godhead. It is worthwhile to take shelter of such a steady devotee who is called Ashray Vigraha, or the manifestation or form of the Lord, of whom one must take shelter. If one poses himself as an acharya but does not have an attitude of servitorship to the Lord, he must be considered an offender, and this offensive attitude disqualifies him from being an acharya. The bona fide spiritual master always engages in unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By this test, he is known to be a direct manifestation of the Lord and a genuine representative of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Such a spiritual master is known as a Charyadev, influenced by an envious temperament and dissatisfied because of an attitude of sense gratification. Mundaners criticize a real acharya. In fact, however, a bona fide acharya is non-different from the personality of Godhead, and therefore to envy such an acharya is to envy the personality of Godhead himself. This will produce an effect subversive to transcendental realization. As mentioned previously, a disciple should always respect the spiritual master as a manifestation of Sri Krishna. But at the same time, one should always remember that a spiritual master is never authorized to imitate the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. False spiritual masters pose themselves as identical with Sri Krishna in every respect to exploit the sentiments of their disciples. But such impersonalists can only mislead their disciples, for their ultimate aim is to become one with the Lord. This is against the principles of the devotional cult. Here, Prabhupada straightforwardly uses the term cult, like, oh, cult, as in this is a culture. This is a true spiritual culture, apart from the connotations of that word in the current age. The real Vedic philosophy is a Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, which establishes everything to be simultaneously one with and different from the personality of Godhead. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami confirms that this is the real position of a bona fide spiritual master and says that one should always think of the spiritual master in terms of his intimate relationship with Mukunda, Sri Krishna. Srila Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha 213 has clearly defined that a pure devotee's observation of the spiritual master and Lord Shiva as one with the personality of Godhead exists in terms of their being very dear to the Lord, not identical with him in all respects. Following in the footsteps of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami, later acharyas like Srila Vishwanath-Chakravarti Thakur have confirmed the same truths. In his prayers to the spiritual master, Srila Vishwanath-Chakravarti Thakur confirms that all the revealed scriptures accept the spiritual master to be identical with the personality of Godhead, because he is very dear and he is a very dear and confidential servant of the Lord. Now that sentence from Srila Prabhupada is directly referencing the 7th stanza of the Gaurvastakam. Sakshad Darit Vena Samasta Shastra Uttastata Bhavyata Eva Sadvi Kintu Prabhurya Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. That sentence right there that we read, that's essentially a translation of that 7th stanza. Gaudiya Vaishnavas therefore worship Srila Gurudev, the spiritual master, in the light of his being the servitor of the personality of Godhead. In all the ancient literatures of devotional service and in the more recent songs of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and other unalloyed Vaishnavas, the spiritual master is always considered either one of the confidential associates of Srimati Radharani or a manifested representation of Srila Nityananda Prabhu. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshurandilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Sva Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshvare Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatayubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanan pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vandigu Nisha Bhaktams Ishan Isha Vatarakan Tat Prakashams Chatat Chatat Shakti Krishna Chaitanya Samgyakam Bande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahudi Dal Gordu Daya Pushpavadal Chitra Sundal Tamodundal. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are just like the sun and the moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Godhead to wonderfully bestow benediction upon all and to dissipate the darkness of ignorance in this age of Kali. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Ladini Shaktir Asmad Ekatmanav Api Bhuvi Pura Deha Bedam Gatao Tao Chaitan Akyam Prakata Aduna Tat Dvayam Chaikyam Akyam Aptam Radha Bhava Duti Suvalitam Normi Krishna Suvalitam Krishna Swarupam Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Srupakam Bhaktavatam Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam Jayatam Surtau Pangor Mamamanda Mater Gati Matsarasva Padambu Jau Radha Madhanana Mohanel. Glory to the all merciful Radha and Madhan Mohana. I am lame and ill-advised, yet they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me. Divyad Vindaranya Kapajumana. Srimad Ratnagara Singhasana Style. Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Deval. Pristali Bisevyamane Smarami. In a temple of jewels, in a forest of Vrindavan, beneath the desire tree, Sri Radha and Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer them my respectful obeisances. Shriman Rasa Rambi Vamsivata Tata Stita Karshan Venu Staner Gopir Gopinata Shri Struna. Sri Srila Gopinath, who is the inaugurator of the transcendental mellow of the Rasa dance, stands upon the shore at Vamsivat and attracts all the damsels of Raja with the sound of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benedictions. Sri-Caitanya-caritamrta, Adi-lila, chapter 1, text 46, Acharya mam vijaniyan navamanyeta karhichet namarcha buddhyasuyeta sarvadeva mayoguru. One should know the Acharyas myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man, for he is the representative of all the demigods. Hare Krishna. Okay, so yes, that and the Prabhupada writes that the genuine spiritual master, the current direct living link to the Parampara, gives the second birth. Okay, so yes. Today's my birthday. Okay, so we might do some brief review from this morning. We had a class and discussion this morning. So so to take birth and to have a birthday in itself, there's nothing special there. Ritik's laughing. Glad I'm adding amusement value to his birthday. Glad for that. Yeah, nothing special. Nothing special. We can have our celebrations, we can do party hats, we can do the whole thing. There's just nothing special about it. Okay. Because okay, if we dig in the grass, we'll find worms. they have their birthdays. And their children have their birthdays. I'm just, don't shoot the messenger here. I'm just doing it as it is. Okay. And the cats and the dogs and the blades of grass and the trees, they have their birthdays, and so do their children and grandchildren. And their involvement, it's all about ahara nidra bhaya maituni, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. You know, we talk a lot in personal growth, like be authentic, be distinctive, be different. Here's the thing, even if we're being different and authentic and colorful and unique, and it's just like different forms of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, it's just cats and dogs stuff. There's just nothing exciting about it. It's dull. Okay. I'm sharing that. I'm not saying I have full realization about that, but I have more realization than I had like 45 years ago or something like that. So that's it. No, it's just like, it's the samsara dava. It's a samsara, birth, death, old age, and disease. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, an integral part of wisdom, Janma Mitra Jaravedi Dukadosha and Darshana, that to realize the inherent unnaturalness of being stuck in a body that's subject to birth, death, old age, disease. I'll do eating this way, I'll do sleeping, I'll do it in this way. It's just more of the same, like that. And so yeah, so okay, so that can be like, that was a rather depressing beginning to your talk, David. Welcome, Hare Krishna, Haribol, welcome. Thank you for visiting. Yes, okay. So then, yeah, so that's the bleak side. And then the bright side, the bright side is Atato Brahma Jigyasa, as spiritual beings having a human experience. We get to engage in the process of what's called here second birth. We get to engage in the process of second birth. And that's unique, that's distinctive, whether it's in my writings or my seminars. You probably all heard me give the analogy of the computer as a doorstop, right? That's what we're talking about here. That's what we're talking about here. And so, remember, first I was giving a class in New Raman Reddy, a lecture in 1992, and that kind of spontaneously appeared to me. The Prabhus and Matajis liked it, so I've done it like 10,000 times since then. Yeah, hang on to it. It works. Yeah. But that's the idea. So like if we have this computer, like a laptop computer, and then we use it as a doorstop, well, we can use it for that, but you know, we can use it for much, it's a waste. We can use it for much higher level functions. So similarly with this human form, with this human form, we can use it for just like more eating, sleeping, mating, defending, in slightly different forms, different species, different planetary system. Do it in here, there, and the dog experience of it. But like what Bhagavatam Chaitanya is saying is like, come on, wake up. Like that's not really interesting anymore. That's not really interesting anymore. And so like awaken to the possibilities of special birth. That's like the human computer, of course. The human form, and even any form, is more sophisticated than the most sophisticated AI or ChatGPT or the computer. But it's an analogy. So that's, you know, so it's described. Atato Brahma Jigyasa, that's the first aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra. Atato means now. What do you mean now? Now that we've achieved a human form. Brahma, Jigyasa means to inquire. Now's the time to inquire about spirit. Now's the time to inquire about spirit. Kamasya Nindriya Pritir. Labujiveti Yavata Jivasya Tattva Jigyasa Notoyascha Karma Bhi. That the recommendation of these sages, these authorized acharya, is to not use the human form just for sense gratification, to use it for inquiry into the absolute truth, into who we really are. And in the course of that, senses will sometimes be displeased or pleased, not to make sense gratification the goal of life, to make realization into objective truth. So the second birth that Prabhupada's talking about here, and that Krishna is talking about in his discussion with Uddhava, and this is Krishna's Kaviraj speaking, the first of 62 chapters of Sri-Caitanya-caritamrta, called the Spiritual Masters. That's where he starts. And this second birth, that's the special opportunity of the human life. We don't use it for that. It's like using the computer as a doorstep. Okay, we get that. So the second, that's a birth into knowledge. That's a birth into knowledge. This morning we're distinguishing knowledge from facts or data. Okay, so like who won the Super Bowl in 1975? That would be data. Okay, not necessarily. I could tell you, yeah, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to. And yeah, and so yes, this is birth into knowledge about who I am as spirit soul, the distinction between spirit and matter. And even that is incomplete. That's a foundation, that's a beginning. Brahman Hope Pratishta, that's like Brahman realization. And then there's, okay. So then there's, okay, but then what's the function of the soul? Oh, what's the function of the soul in enlightenment? And so, Hare Krishna Rohini. So we can look here, like the title of this epic, Sri-Caitanya-caritamrta. And so Chaitanya, it's like I know in the Hebrew we say L'chaim, right? In Chinese you have the chi, right? So it's all the same root. Chi, Chaitanya, L'chaim, it means life. It's all the same root there. And so Charitamrita, we can see the roots there of the English word character. Okay, so this is, okay, so Sri-Caitanya-caritamrta, the character of the living force in immortality. Amrita, immortality, the character of the living force in immortality. That's what we have here. So to realize that, that's the path to the second birth. That's the path to the second birth. First birth, nothing special. And in the human form, we quoted that verse this morning, Guru nasasyat, Svajano nasasyat, Pitan nasasyat, Janani nasasyat, Namochayad yasamopita michum. Sri Rishabhadev, he's saying, yeah, become a teacher, become a mom, become a dad, become a wife, become a husband. Only if you're able to liberate your dependence from the cycle of birth and death. Okay, so it's actually, guru actually means heavy. So actual guru, it's not just, who's your guru? Like, who's your pet poodle? What's her name? It's kind of like that's the culture around guru. It's like it becomes a mockery, right? But guru is like heavy. It should disturb our thinking. Okay, so like any position, teacher, mother, father, wife, husband, where there's a dependent, then like, yeah, it means like there's a weight of responsibility to become expert, to become masterful. That by all that we say, all we do, all we think, that we're supporting this process of second birth, second birth into knowledge, into Divya Gyan, into Divya Gyan, transformational, transcendental knowledge. And so that's what Krishna is saying here. It's what Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing here. It's a special opportunity, really a special responsibility in the human form. And in a sense, if we don't use it for that, we're sending the message to the universe, I don't need a human form. So then we'll perhaps take form in another species. Okay, because this is what the human form is especially for. And so, we use that word abundantly, transformation. And that's, there's actually a verse that describes about second birth and describes like it's a transformational process. It's not intrinsically about like, I went through a ceremony And I'm not denigrating ceremonies. When ceremonies are done according to the true guidelines of the transformational process, the ceremonies are transformational, whether it's initiation or marriage or any other ceremony. And so the essence of the process of second birth, Diksha, Divyagyan, is this Divyagyan. We sing to Srila Prabhupada every morning. Chakudan diloye janme Prabhu say Divyagyan ride prokashito. Right. So Prabhupada, many quotes Prabhupada. Divyagyan is Diksha. It's the essence of Diksha. In some sectors, I've been asking this for 42 years, I haven't gotten a response yet. They're singing to Prabhupada as part of their program. Divyagan Ride Prokashito. They're singing, you give us Diksha. And their official policy is Prabhupada is not capable to give Diksha. Could you explain that? No, I can't. So our stance is he completely is capable to give Diksha. And we qualify, as this verse, we qualify ourselves to receive second birth, transformational, transcendental knowledge through humbly, sincerely, authentically accepting, following, and serving Srila Prabhupada in the context of the Acharya as described in this verse. This is a quintessential Guru Tattva verse in all the Vedas, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya-caritamrta. And so there's a verse, was it? Yata kancha natam yati kasyam rasa vidan ena tata diksha vidanena dvijatvam jayate rina. Dvijatam means, like you see the English word duo, two. Dvijatvam, it means like second birth. So the second birth, and there's a metaphor given there in the Vedas that Prabhupada uses a lot, like transforming, like a touchstone transforms iron into gold. So similarly, by the touch of the pure devotee, spiritual teacher, the current link to the parampara, then our hearts transform from, let's say, first birth. First birth is birth of the body. Second birth is realization, I'm not this body. Realization, I'm not this body. And who am I? Oh, I'm spirit soul. I'm a servant of Sri Sri Radha Krishna. And so with that transformation, all of the tamasic and tada rajastamo bhavo kamalabha dayaste chaitaiter navidam stita sattve prasidati. The effects of the lower modes, rajas and tamas, greed, lust, envy, they get cleared from the heart. The diamond is cleansed. One becomes happy in the mode of goodness. And then all of the sublime qualities of transcendence and goodness naturally manifest in the heart. So it's not the who's your guru, like, it's not a fashion, it's not a looking good thing, it's not a being right thing. It's a transformation of heart. And we're here because we've experienced at least some drops or maybe some oceans of such transformation through following the process that Srila Prabhupada has given us. A quote I used this morning from Mark Twain. The two most important days of your life are the two most important days of your life are the day that you were born and the day that you discover why. The day that you discover why. So that relates to that sublime principle of living on purpose. And so for myself, that is unfolding. That is unfolding more and more. We also, this morning, we referenced Srila Prabhupada. he described his second birth really was the day he met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and he argued with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And then in later years, he would say, and I argued and I was happily defeated. And he said that he accepted Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's mission as his life and soul. Prabhupada would later criticize himself, and he would say, and I wasted so much time, but anyhow, like 43 years after the meeting, I came to the West. Of course, we don't see that Prabhupada wasted time. He had different plans, and Krishna co-created with him. There's a verse Prabhupada uses, applies to himself, also from the 11th canto, Yasyaham Anuguinami, Harishet Denam Shanai, that when Krishna sees the devotee sincere to serve him, but the devotee still has material attachments, Krishna will take everything away. So then there's nothing left except like a Draupadi lifting the arms in the air. And so Srila Prabhupada sees that, well, he wanted to serve Krishna, but he had attached the first he'll get really wealthy in business and he'll use that. And like he had different ideas. No, we certainly don't see that Prabhupada was attached, but in his humility, he sees it that way. So that we accept the mission of Srila Prabhupada as our life and soul. That's our second birth. And it's not a point. We've used this analogy sometimes that I find helpful. Like, let's say if we put the milk on the stove and we turn on the fire, then we can say, oh, the milk's boiling. And it's in the process of boiling. And let's say a few minutes later, oh, there's some bubbles. The milk's boiling. Maybe another minute, it's really it's in this ferocious royal. It's boiling. And 5 minutes later, we could still say the milk's boiling. So as soon as we contact Srila Prabhupada and with some sincerity begin to receive the Divyagan, the transformational transcendental knowledge, the milk's boiling. The milk's boiling. And then it's hard to forget because, Prabhupada says in his purport on the Maha Mantra from the Happening album, December 1966, says this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it's not an artificial imposition on the mind. It's the original energy of the self. It's the original consciousness of the self. So it's even like in ones that we can say it goes to the deepest part of the self. But more than that, it goes to the very source of ourself, the very ground, the very root and substratum of our existence, super soul, even deeper than super soul, Sri Krishna and Goloka Vrindavan. So that's where the Maha Mantra, and that's where Srila Prabhupada's coming from. And that's why it's just like, even though this whole Krishna consciousness, it seems so far and it's not what I grew up with. But then how come it feels like coming home? And that relates to second birth. It's foreign to the first birth and identification with the material body. And so Diksha, Divyagan, second birth, it's a process. It's a process. And the milk keeps boiling and gets more and more purified. And so I think as most everyone here is aware. So this is a quintessential guru verse that we're studying today. And so we're emphasizing Srila Prabhupada as guru in the singular. Yata Devi Prabhakti, Yata Devi Tataguru, Tasya Dekatitayata, Pakshante Mahatmana. That's another Vedic verse Prabhupada quotes a lot. That like we make progress in realizing the truths of the Vedas and realizing the true Divya Gyan with unconditional absolute trust in Krishna and the pure devotee current link to the Parampara. And so again, we might have many pure devotees, we have many gurus, people who supported us, people who guide us, people who, Prabhupada uses the term spilling gallons of blood. Prabhupada uses that term. It's like, yeah, to move and inspire one person to come to Krishna consciousness with sincerest. He says, I'm spilling gallons of blood for us. And we can see that, right? So like, Prabhupada didn't need to sail. There was no have to. He didn't need to sail on the Jaladuta, right? So and have 2 heart attacks on the way. He didn't need to rise at 1 a.m. to give us his purports. But he's just like spilling gallons of blood so we get it. And so, and Yare Dekatare Ka Krishna Upadesh Amara Gyai Guru Hanatara Adesh. And we're all meant to be gurus, teachers, guides, mentors, coaches. And it's not like we're meant to, we are. Now how well we're fulfilling that role, we can each look at that. But like if we're a teacher in a schoolroom, if we're parents, look, that's the role of guru. In the role of coach, we can, it's not like the medical model and we're like equals. Yeah, but there's a power differential. We're in the role of guru. And so to what extent are we, to what extent we get to be in the question? To what extent are my words, actions, thoughts, are they aligned with Srila Prabhupada, with the parampara that Srila Prabhupada describes here, with the line of authorized disciplic succession? And to the extent that we're not, then we're taking on karma. Then in the name of healing, coaching, parenting, fathering, mothering, then we're getting the material karma. And to the extent that we're a transparent medium, like I'm not doing this for my karma yeva adhikaraste, ma paleshu kadachana, ma pala karma hetor bor, mate sangha strak harmony. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you have a right and responsibility to fulfill your duties, your services. You don't have a right to the result. I'm attached to the result, I'm getting karma, material karma. Of course, Krishna karma is another thing. Krishna karma means working for Krishna. And Krishna says, don't think yourself the cause of the results. And don't be attached to not fulfilling your responsibility. And that's a tough one. Because I'm like, well, I'm doing this because I'm doing it. I'm the cause. And then I get the credit and the pride and the adoration and the distinction and the popularity, and I'm doing it. And Krishna says, nah. You're entitled to give 108% with full enthusiasm, full commitment. And with realization, you're ultimately not the cause. Because if I'm not even the cause, well, then what's the point? What's the point? I was going to watch some TV or something. I mean, and the priest said, no, and don't be attached to not doing your duty. Don't be attached. So we're meant to be gurus, and my way of being a guru in the line of Srila Prabhupada is not to be one's link to Srila Prabhupada, but rather to support you and support myself, to connect with Srila Prabhupada, to establish, develop, and continue to boil the milk with your personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada, such that Srila Prabhupada is, or if isn't, at least becomes the most personally important person in your spiritual life. And that's the system Srila Prabhupada set up for essential and formal initiation. Sometimes, yeah. And again, I'm not one to say Srila Prabhupada's the only pure devotee, the only way. If someone, well, I got another, fine, go for it. Go to town, hope it works for you. The problem is, if someone's, I'm directly calling the problem. If someone's claiming Srila Prabhupada's not available to give Divya Dikshit to be the current link. Okay, and then like in Prabhupada's final will and testament, June 4th, 1977, Prabhupada wrote, he's establishing the management structure for the future of his organization. And he writes that the managers, persons in managerial positions, trustees, in the future, they will be my initiated disciple. He uses that exact term. Actually, in later weeks, Prabhupada went back and revised some of the wording in his final will, and he deliberately kept that, my initiated disciple. So we can ask the question, Prabhupada's vision was that his movement will be dead in 50 years. Yeah. Okay. I'm using sarcasm in a heavy way. So like, no, Prabhupada's vision, his movement goes on for centuries and thousands of years. So he's saying hundreds and thousands of years from now, he's going to have his initiated disciples, essentially and formally, leading his movement. Now, if someone says, well, I don't want to encourage anyone to be Prabhupada's initiated disciple. I'm encouraging people to be initiated disciple of me, or this one or that one. Okay, go for it. Go to town. But how can you say that Prabhupada not capable to have initiated disciples, or he didn't want that? And again, if someone's saying that, they may be well-meaning, and they may be nice people, and they are doing spiritual violence if they're in any way overtly or subtly indicating that Prabhupada's not fully 100% available to continue to initiate disciples to be the current link to the parampara. And maybe they're innocent and then they've been influenced by agents of chaos and confusion. So I'm imploring at least everyone hearing here, let us not be agents of chaos and confusion in the name of Krishna consciousness and spirituality. Prabhupada was so clear. He did not give chaos and confusion. In saying something, Prabhupada's full 100% availability to be the current direct living link to the parampara, 100% available, not 99%. Then okay, so sometimes that's misunderstood as like, oh, so then you're saying that you or we could just neglect our responsibilities to support others. Not at all. I endeavor, not that I'm imitating Prabhupada, but I endeavor to also spill gallons of blood to support people in getting the distinctions of the Krishna conscious philosophy, Achintya Beta Beta Tattva, and the real Vedic philosophy, Achintya Beta Beta Tattva, to support them. Again, I'm very, very, very flawed with so many shortcomings in my attempts. At the same time, I endeavor also to spill gallons of blood to support people to come to Srila Prabhupada as their current direct link to the parampara. So this Prabhupada as a current link, it's not meant to be an excuse for shirking or neglecting our responsibilities. And it's also not saying that there's no one else qualified. Am I saying there's no one else qualified, only Prabhupada? I'm not saying that. Am I saying there is someone else qualified? I'm not saying that. I'm saying discussions about, but this one's a pure devotee, but this one's so advanced, but this one, it's almost, in my experience, over more than 45 years now, and such as that, it's just a distraction from Prabhupada's full availability. Okay, so I thank you for being here, for supporting me to here today and in our community here over the years and decades, supporting me to strengthen and deepen my immersion in my process of second birth. And through discussions such as this, I get to delve deeply into the philosophy and the meaning of Krishna consciousness and commit myself with more joy in Srila Prabhupada and serving his mission. And that makes my first birth meaningful and significant. And Gert and Jules Wolfe get the benefit of that. Just before I came here, the last email I checked, I had an email from Nalini Kanta and Ratneshwar Prabhus, and they said, "Oh, we hear it's your birthday," and they said we just give you full encouragement to become ever more attached to Srila Prabhupada's books and serving his mission. So I wrote back, "Your words mean a lot to me." So that's it. That's the process of making our lives sublime. That's the process of realizing the purpose of our birth more and more. And so that's what I hope for in the next year. Thanks for your support. This verse again. This is text 46, chapter 1 of the Adi-lila of Chaitanya-caritamrta. It's also Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 17, 27. Achayamam vijaniya navamanye takarhiche namarcha budyasuyeta sarvadeva mayogu. One should know the Acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man, for he is the representative of all the demigods. Thank you for giving your attention to Sri-Caitanya-caritamrta, Srila Prabhupada, and Srimad Bhagavatam. I welcome at this time any questions, comment, realizations, or inspirations from anyone.
Just playing player.
I would like to share.
Sure.
Yeah, appreciate very much what I did here. I showed up late, so I didn't get the first part. And yeah, it was just one thing that you expressed that really kind of hit for me was knowing how to liberate the soul before all the finding a partner and having children,
Yeah.
the whole material, journey. And I was just thinking about like, wow, like what would life be like to have had just that idea, perspective when I was a youth.
Yeah.
And then to fully understand what that really meant as well. Like, just looking at my life, like I needed to go through all those, different elements of, marriage and then children before I was even like staying still enough, being present enough to really be present with those types of questions. For me personally, that was my journey. So anyway, I was just like feeling the impact of that, just like, wow, like really, like that's the most important really thing to get, is how to liberate oneself from material consciousness and contacts. So yeah, I was just really appreciating that. So thank you for sharing that. And also
Thanks for that. I'll just briefly comment. Thank you, Guru Prabhu. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your comment. Yeah, and this verse, in one sense, this verse, it's sort of it's shared in the context of the traditional Vedic system. we are not in the traditional Vedic system. And the Prabhupada did not give us the traditional Vedic system, which is like the Varnashram, the Vidhi marg. Prabhupada gave us Panchatriki marg. Because like Prabhupada says in the purport, is like speaking to a brahmachari, the traditional Vedic system. So 25 years like in brahmachari student life, and one is like really fixed in the higher values of life and spiritual life, the distinction between man. And then a brahmachari might choose to enter into family life and get married and have children and like that. And yeah, and so that wasn't my process, right? And so Prabhupada, he often says that this traditional conventional Vedic process, this doesn't apply here. So he's giving us a process in the line of Narada Muni, Panchatrika process, where it's kind of like, okay, you didn't have a Starta Vedic upbringing or this or that, or you weren't trained as a Brahmin or like that. But there's some spark of sincerity. Just fan that spark through hearing and chanting, and then everything else will organically emerge and get realized. Please continue.
Yeah, appreciate you adding and reflecting, when I was sharing it. Yeah, it's like just having that perspective of, just being shown like here's an alternative. It was just like, learning more about like Vedic culture has made such a big impact on me, really like seeing like, oh, the distinctions, so I've been really relishing that. It's really been supportive for me.
Hare Krishna. Ananda Govinda. Thanks for being. Yeah, if you want to go down the hallway to the left, down all the way at the end of the hallway, and you got it. Welcome, Ananda.
Yeah, thank you. And then I was thinking about, you expressing, things, suspending attachment to our endeavors, and really seeing that, we're not really doing, we're not facilitating anything. Krishna is allowing, we're using Krishna's energy. Krishna is allowing everything to happen. And yeah, really looking at like, individuals taking leadership and, guru, in that sense, and just, like someone who is a guru, and then someone who is, endeavoring to be a guru for a certain, personal, desire, I'm just kind of looking at that too, the distinctions of like, that there is. Yeah, so that's all I have to share. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for your realizations. Garuda Prabhu, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any other comments, questions, inspirations? Bhakteen Rosa. You got your buddy here.
Hey, buddy. Hare Krishna. We had some accountability today to make sure we reminded each other about things going on. Anyway, so husband, wife, teacher, these different roles. What was occurring to me is that husband and wife is a little bit different than the others in power dynamic, because you're both teaching each other and being taught by one another. And I had some curiosity pop up in that, because like, again, parent child, right? It's pretty obvious what's going on. Teacher student, pretty obvious what's going on. And then what occurred to me with that is, even if you're husband and wife and on the same playing field, even a teacher learns from the student.
Yeah.
Right. And
I'll just, like in coach training, or for myself, that we're there for the client's value. I'm not there for my value. And if I'm conscious and present, in a session or in a coaching relationship, I'm getting at least as much value as the client, if not more. So it's like, it's a distinction. We're not there for our value. At the same time, if we're serving clients process, encountering themselves honestly, then I'm going to get at least as much value of it. So I appreciate that.
So the humility of that, right? Like being present and being popped up. So that was one thought. Another thing that's coming up for me, and I guess it's kind of sensitive or whatever, but yeah.
No, I'll say, yeah, we're not, I don't intend to get here into like, husband-wife relationship, like that, that can go into so many directions. At the same time, the essence, the ideal essence is that husband and wife support each other in their process of continuing to boil the milk, of continuing to enter more and more deeply into second birth, into realization of who we are as spirit souls, not the body, servant of the absolute. So that's the essence, and that's heavy. That's a heavy weight, whether it's the role of wife or husband.
Hare Krishna, thank you for that addition. So I have people approaching me and telling me things about Prabhupada not being available, and to whatever extent I've already developed relationships with these people, I'm just sad.
I can see you're emotional. It's moving into sad, painful emotions.
So with that, I think I've thought to myself, like, what can I do? And I know from experience and other things in my life, we relate with people in the places that we can and accept the places that we cannot. And so that's been still painful.
It's painful, yeah, and right, like you're not going to pretend it doesn't hurt. In one sense, I've been involved in this for 40 years, but I started writing papers late 90s, so well over a quarter century. And people who are very near and dear to me, people who, and like they come out with things, we've done service together, and like, it still hurts, it's painful. And I'm open. This morning we talked about openness as an instrumental virtue. And through openness, I have come to the unavoidable, unmistakable, joyful conclusion that Prabhupada 100%, 108% available to be the current direct living link to the parampara, and we all have a role to play to continue the parampara. And I continue to be open. It's just like I've been, I feel pretty assured now since I put that. I'm continue to be open for if anyone wants to present to me that no, Prabhupada's not available. At the same time, I haven't heard anything, and I've been putting that challenge out for 28 years. So so you're honestly connected, and it's painful, it hurts, because these are people who are dear to you. You have affection for it.
Developing relationships and then understanding that there's something about trust that's kind of broken there. Another thing that I noticed
And I mean, you're going on, and I want to hear, but I'm not going to let that just be a throwaway comment. Something about trust being broken. But you get that people you have affection for, and they're dear, and they're nice and good and sincere, and they practice bhakti. At the same time, the position, Prabhupada's not available. I get that not just cognitively, but also emotionally and spiritually, they're being agents of confusion and chaos, and they're trying to do spiritual violence to you. Not that they're malicious in intent, but because they're influenced by, and so if you get like someone's doing spiritual violence, even if they're not malicious in intent, it doesn't help the trust level.
And I mean, even if it weren't the subject matter, right? The thing that I get repeatedly with anyone who approaches me is they're not asking me any questions. They're not asking me where I'm at. They're telling me, they're talking at me. And one of the parts that's hurtful, I've asked myself questions about this, is that like I have some amount of knowledge. I could talk right back at them. It wouldn't be useful.
Yeah.
And so I listen and I wait and they never ask me anything.
Yeah, so you're getting like maybe in other spheres, you're getting they care about you. In this kind of most vital central sphere of your life, you're not getting they care about you as a person or interested in your point of view, your perspective. There's Ilarupa Goswami, he describes different qualities and elements of relationship that are vital between persons, sincere about self-realization and spiritual life. Datati pratigrinati, guyamakiti prichati, punkte bojayate, chaya, sadvidham pritilaksham. And he says that this is right, like a safe space where it's a safe space for all emotions to be acceptable, to share the heart confidentially, and without fear of being oppressed or repressed or ridiculed. Share the heart confidentially, and you're getting sad. It's sad for you that like that's not there. That's not there. You're ready to engage in dialogue. You could talk back at them and label them and like that, but kind of like that's a waste of life. So it's all sad. Thank you, Bhakti Rosa. Ritik, Prabhu. Ritik.
Hare Krishna, David,
Hare Krishna.
everyone. Something that really kind of showed me like a good birthday to me. I think this lecture was an amazing birthday gift for me. I really appreciate it. I don't really celebrate birthdays, but this was
Thank
good.
you, Ritik. Just for those who aren't aware, December 3rd, it's David Wolf's birthday and Ritik's birthday. Yeah. Yeah. We said earlier he might be a little older than me, but still, it's December 3rd. Please continue, Ritik.
So yeah, I turned 26 today, and this year,
Reverse those numbers and then.
so yeah, it's been a very special year for me, getting introduced to Sattvato and David, and you are sharing of like seeing the life, your birthdays as like a second life, a second opportunity, and realization. Yeah, I think your email was, I read your email to me, and it was like the remind yourself of the highest purpose of this life, of your birth. So I intend to take birthdays and remind like life in that way, reminding myself of the highest purpose. And your lecture on the Guru Tattva and everything, it was so opening for me. Prabhupada is fully available 100% in Vapu and Vani form through his books, through his lectures and everything. It was very touching for me to actually realize like, yes, Prabhupada is there. And it's motivating to make to it's motivating me to read more books and everything. One question I have, like David, when you explain like my favorite verse from Bhagavad Gita, Karmanyavadikaraste, I'm a little confused on like the Krishna says, do your endeavors, but don't be attached to the results. And when you say consciousness on the results,
Yeah.
so I understand that doing is one thing and being not attached to the results is one thing. Could you make a nice like more like a distinction of like not being attached to results at the same time being more setting our consciousness more on the results, because let's say I want to become like a senior software engineer from junior. The very goals are stemming from desires. The various goal are stemming from like attachments and stuff. So
Yeah.
how can I not have attachments when the very root of something, some endeavors in my life is stemming from desires? Would you be willing to share more on that?
Thank you, Ritik. Thanks for your sharing. Thank you. I appreciate your question very much. Gets into subtleties and distinctions of the principles of spiritual transformation. Thank you, Ritik. And humor aside, I appreciate we're getting to share this space on December 3rd. I appreciate we're getting to share this space and this quality of conversation. Yeah. So consciousness and the results, that's a principle aligned with spirit being superior to matter. So for my consciousness and the result, okay? So whatever result, it can be in career, it can be in physical health. Srila Prabhupada had his consciousness in the result, right? So when Srila Prabhupada sailed on the Jaladuta so then like in the New York metropolitan area, there's 13 million people and there's no devotees. Srila Prabhupada's not seen that way. Prabhupada's not seeing there's no devotees in the New York metropolitan area. He's saying there's 13 million devotees. Okay, they haven't awakened to that, but like my consciousness is in the result, and I'm kind of he's on his poetry he writes, I have no knowledge, I have no devotion. So Krishna used me as an instrument, such humility. And then he's manifesting that result. The milk is continuing to boil. And so conscious and result. Now that's different than emotional attachment to the result. And that's what I see Krishna's talking about in Bhagavad Gita 2.47 and many other places. So emotional attachment to the result means, let's say I have a result in finances, or I have a result in, I have an aim I want to achieve in a relationship. I just want this person to change and to stop doing that or to start doing that. And then I'll be happy, fulfilled, and satisfied. And we all know that always works, right? And so just like if we consider, just like for some ingrained quality that we want to change in ourselves, how challenging that is. And I've put my hopes for future happiness on someone else changing. Really intelligent, right? So, okay.
Odds are small.
Yeah, yeah, odds are small. And so, so Krishna's, and it's the nature of the self to desire. It's the nature of the self to desire. And then, and so what I see Krishna saying there, and in so many places, so many verses and sections, is that, yeah, to cultivate attachment to the service, attachment to the devotional service. And we can think, oh, but I'm not attached to the result. Then how can I be enthusiastic? It's just because let's say if I'm attached to a result, whether in career or finances or physical health or a devotional project, I'm attached to the result. And let's say things are not going the way I'd like them to go. Then I might become disheartened, discouraged, maybe depressed. And then I'll give up, or I'll just have lackluster effort. So Krishna is saying, or let's say things start to go well. Let's celebrate, let's have a party. I'm elated. And that'll also interfere with my steady, grounded, inspired service. Steady and grounded, inspired service. And so that's what I see. Yeah, he's encouraging us for our goals, but consciousness in the result, spirit is superior to matter, and and I'm not saying this is easy. The principle, though, is that our emotional state is not dependent on the result. We do cultivate attachment to the service, and that's why Krishna says, you're not the cause, and don't be attached to not being your duty, Because it means like, oh, things aren't coming out the way I want. So what's the point of continuing in this way? So to continue with enthusiasm, and that means things are going good, not good. People are honoring me. People are insulting me. The weather's great. The weather's not great. The economy's this. The economy's that. I continue with steady enthusiasm. That's the non-attachment, and that's completely compatible, not contradictory, with consciousness in the result. Thank you, Ritik. I see Parampara, you had your hand up. And
Yes,
then Atmananda and Anand. Yes.
so I just wanted to share, we were talking about the guru type of issue and issue.
Yeah.
Or whatever topic, and I actually don't like talking about it, but I'm gonna talk about it, and because you mentioned like, we're kind of like, whether we like it or not, we're gonna be in the gurus or whatever, like.
Yeah,
here's the
we're
guru
in that
position
role.
we're-
We're in that role.
So kind of like, well, whatever I am or not, I have took initiation in the system, 2020.
Yeah.
And been being with the devotees for 15 years or 16 or however many years. And so I just I thought about sharing before, and here's a forum to share. And so I'd like to share kind of like my stance, and just to let it be known, because maybe people have assumptions or whatever, or who knows, whatever it is. So I took initiation, like I said, like Prabhupada is the current link, and I'm kind of having conversations, having conversations with Valerie. Like, I'm really inspired by like how deep you're going, and like your process. I don't think I didn't go that deep for sure. And so but I went deep. Not as deep as what she, but when had conversations.
You and I had many communications over the years.
Communications over the years and things like that. And so, since 2020, I would say, my perspective has shifted and things like that. Like, you can judge a tree by its fruits. And so like, so here's the fruits. And, I'm not 100% convinced that Prabhupada as the current link, like particularly in the way that we have it here in our system, that it's the best system, or it's the right system for everyone.
Right.
And I'm not, I think that's my experience. And then I think previously I was thinking like, oh, everybody should do this. This is just like, rubber stamp, or just this way for everybody. But I'm not convinced about that, and I feel like it's this Krishna consciousness. Any kind of spirituality is very personal, so it's like a personal relationship.
Yeah.
So according to someone's personal relationship and personality, I think there's so many systems. There's so many Vedic systems and different paramparas and different lineages and different lines and so many different things. And so for someone to, maybe something else is better, would produce a better fruit. Like, I totally see that. And then the one thing that I've not had any doubt about, or have anyone convinced me anything other than, is that Prabhupada is not available, or that it's not the safest system.
Right. Thanks for that.
I've been convinced of that. That it's like this is the safest, and it's it's legit. It's likely that Prabhupada is available. Everything else is debatable as far as I'm concerned. Like for you, for this one, for that one, this system may be better. Maybe be better because you would get more training, you get to be a part of the club, and you get more social perks, and you get, maybe you'll go back to God. Yeah, I don't know. But those two things, like availability of Prabhupada, and then the safety I just feel even more convinced, even though my perspective has changed. So I just wanted to share that with all of you. Oh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thanks, Param Prabhu. I appreciate.
Can I say something in response?
Sure.
So as you were sharing it, it just became so clear. Like I think of Jesus. Like Jesus is so many people's current link to their parampara, however clear, not clear that parampara may be. And like I feel like there's nobody questioning that. Certainly within the realm of Christianity, which is like, yeah, of course, like Jesus is the way. Like that's the link. And it just kind of dawned on me of like, oh yeah, it's so clear there. I'm like, oh yeah, that's obviously that person's path. Like, I've heard you share, Dhira, that you've had people come in contact with Sabato, they'll come here and they're like, I want to take what you're doing, but apply it to Christianity, to apply it to my faith. Like
completely.
That's like, it's pretty clear, like that's where they're devoted, that's where their heart is, and that's their best path. So yeah, what you're saying resonates a lot. Like, somebody's path, like Muslim Allah, like that's their path. Jesus, like Prabhupada, and other people may have, like you said, maybe questionable paths or paramparas or what have you. But yeah, I think it makes sense to me that different people might have a path that's like better for them, because that's what, like with Christianity, that's what works for them, what resonates with them.
I'm appreciating very much the sharing, and I heard it from Prabhupada that what you shared, you're convinced this is the safest approach, and not necessarily the best approach for everyone. And since I've been kind of deeply thinking and writing about it since 1998, that's consistent with my stance. My stance is like Srila Prabhupada is the current direct living link to the parampara. I'm simply humbly requesting that system, that reality is honored, respected, and accepted. Honored, respected, and accepted. And that's it. Well, I don't want to follow it. I'm not saying you follow. I'm not saying you follow. I follow this one. I've heard, and as you said, Bhakteza, we have so many. They've come and they get more realization about how Jesus is their current link, and they get a sadhana from coming to Sattva that they didn't have from their priest. So I'm not saying everyone needs to. I'm not saying it's the best system for everyone. There should be honored, accepted, and respected. And if it's not respected, honored, and accepted, then that could hurt. Another response is, that doesn't need to be my problem. And the reason why the sad part is that I even need to say that it needs to be honored, respected, and accepted, because in so many sectors of the bhakti world, it's ridiculed, vilified, demonized, and condemned. So all I'm not saying accept, you need to follow, I'm not saying it's for everyone. It's a system that Prabhupada established philosophically and by his personal example. We're simply asking that it's honored, accepted, and respected. If someone's not willing to do that, it might hurt, and doesn't need to be my problem. Between you and Prabhupada, I wish you well. I wish you well. And, okay, I'm going to make some connections here, and I see there's other sharing. 1977 attempts to kill Prabhupada's Vapu. So this Prabhupada's full availability, that's joyful, honored, respected, and accepted. That's all we're asking. Denying that, that's an attempt to murder Prabhupada's Vani, and that's what it is. But the people who are doing it are nice. They might be nice. And they're puppets. They're puppets of agents for chaos and confusion. That's what's happening. Ananda.
Well, my original comment was, 50 thoughts to go in response to something else. Can I have something new to say? Sure.
Thanks for being here, Nanda. It's been a while since we've been in this space together. Yeah.
And the image I got is, that old metaphor of branches of a tree, and you don't cut off Prabhupada's branch. And there's going to be so much diversity and so many extra branches coming off, and they have flowers. This is a very prominent branch of the tree of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. That's beautiful. It's worthy of being ornamented and given attention. And if other branches grow from that branch, she's like, nice, that's great. And some of those branches may not be strong enough to stick around. The Prabhupada's branch, the base needs to stay strong. And so people need, what I see you doing is you're really offering puja and giving attention and saying, don't forget. And, you have so much devotion for this that it's keeping us from forgetting. Because some of us have wandering minds and get excited about lots of other spiritual paths, and so my experience of you is that you just keep reminding me, like, oh Prabhupada, and that's so beautiful and helpful.
Okay, and I'm encouraged and touched by your sharing. Damayanti.
I just wanted to share that, and Hare Krishna, thank you everyone for your association, and thank you for the class too. That something that's really heartening for me with first of all, every religion seems to branch off,
sure,
branch out, and it's just the nature of humanity. There's going to be conflict, change. People are, so it's just how things are, and there's no real change. It's not like we're not in a pure location, so there's going to be corruption and changes and misrepresentations and human mistakes in the spiritual paths. And something that's really heartening for me is that if you look and see, like you were saying, Prabhu, at the fruit of these different paths and ways to practice Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, if you look, you can see devotion being cultivated in many locations. And devotion can be cultivated outside of the religious path. Devotion can be cultivated in a fundamentalist church. It can be cultivated in a fanatical group, whether you're fanatically in the institution, fanatically outside of the institution. There's fanatical people in different places, or there's really devotional people who stray away from fanaticism. You can be devotion's being cultivated. Devotion, what I mean is love and service and devotion to God. It's being cultivated in all kinds of locations and places. And that really gives me a lot of encouragement, and also reduces my fear or concern for others and for myself. We're all being guided. What can a soul do? Your path unfolded. Yeah, you made those choices, but if you encounter any teaching about cultivating love of God, do your best with that teaching, do your best with that practice. And if you learn more information and you want to adjust your path or your practice, that will be revealed to you according to your seeking and your sincerity to seek the absolute truth and really get the pure teachings and the pure practice, the pure devotee, so anyway, I feel encouraged seeing devotion in many groups. And so I don't have to worry or interfere. And if people want to interfere with me, I have had people want to question me, and even recently, not even question me, judge me before ever asking me a question. And it is painful.
Yeah, it's painful.
Oh, I wish you would have communicated, asked me a question, and I was but I'm okay. I'm gonna continue on. It's good, people are fearful, and that's anyway. But yeah, and on that note, I trust my journey as well. It's a co-creation with Krishna. So hey, this is where I entered God consciousness, and what can I do? And I even wrote that recently to the person who didn't judge me, other people worried, and he approached me, and and I was like, I'm continuing to discover how come Krishna put me in this community or this location to learn about God consciousness. It's still a discovery process. How come I am in learning about Krishna consciousness and Bhakti Yoga in this way? What can I do? What can we do? We are where we are, and we start from there. So, thank you.
Thank you, Damayanti. From the start of your sharing and until you said the word just a few moments ago, that's the word that came to me. I'm experiencing you as trusting, not in a vague, trusting everyone has the highest guidance within. And everyone's being facilitated by the Supreme Facilitator. And that's what's landing for me in your sharing. Atmananda Prabhu. Atmananda visiting us from New Zealand. Atmananda.
Thursday.
Yeah, it's Thursday. It's Thursday night.
Hare Krishna and happy birthday.
Thank you.
To you and Ritik.
And
Hare Krishna, everyone. I'm very happy when you have these evening programs because it works out best for my time. And I'm lamenting that you don't have them more often.
I'll take that as feedback.
Thank you. And it's partly because I feel so much identified with what you are all co-creating here, this community of where anything is okay to express.
Yeah.
That's one of the many jewels I get from associating with the Sattva community, even though I don't know all of you. I know some of you, but in one sense, it doesn't matter. Hearing you means I'm getting to know you. So I appreciate your your distinction about guru in singular and guru in plural.
Yeah.
And I read your articles about that years ago, and I always, and you you repeated it today. For me, it's a very important distinction, and I think that if it was understood and valued, at least honored and respected, whether it's accepted or not, throughout the greater Vaishnava community, it would make a huge difference. And I think it's been a weakness in Prabhupada's movement. But my kind of a question, because if someone is not honoring that principle that Prabhupada is available, he's the current direct link for anyone who wants him to be, who wants to relate with him like that. If people are not honoring that or accepting that it's valid, then that's dangerous for me, as you've indicated with different words. So at the same time, according to Nectar Instruction, my understanding is that I need to find people who are most closely aligned with Prabhupada and most surrendered to him to guarantee my advancement. In fact, I understand from Nectar of Instruction that not only is that important, it's essential. Otherwise, I can't advance. So when I'm looking at someone, it's essential for me, necessary for me to distinguish where they're at as best I can, and that's maybe an arrogant position to take or to even to say, but I have to do it. That's what I understand from Prabhupada's teachings and Rupa Goswami's teachings. So if I can discriminate, if I find someone who is, in my opinion, in my perception, according to my little realization, is following the best, I want to be with that person. I want to follow that person, and people who aspire for the same thing. So I think there's something you can remind me about the verses called, quoting the phrase Jivan Mukta. And I think Prabhupada, there is somewhere in Bhagavatam where Prabhupada says that if someone is following purely, even though he's coming from the Nityabhada, the conditioned soul's position, then he's like the what the gold plated version instead of the solid, but he has the same effect or the potency. So would you say something about that?
All right, Krishna. Okay, thanks for sharing, Abhinandabu. Thanks for being here. Thanks for visiting, and glad to be in your association. Just since not everyone knows context and history, and 2003, Abhinanda, he was like in India, and he heard about some had taken the Savatov courses. We were just beginning to use the name Savatov, and he was so clear that like this is his approach to Krishna. He was just so clear. He and his wife Bhakti Marg, they hadn't taken the courses. They hadn't taken, and others, Prana, they hadn't taken the courses, but they had such trust. They brought me to New Zealand to conduct the foundational advanced courses, and they participated in that. So, just I appreciate our deep alignment there. Well, there was a few things in your statement in question. Okay, here's the thing. It's not my service, it's not my role to determine conclusively what's in someone's heart. Okay? It's like what's happening between them and Krishna and them and Prabhupada. It's not my role. At the same time, based on words and actions, it is my role to determine the boundaries with which I want to associate, how intimately, how much trust, how much let's be respectful from a distance. And just even I mentioned, yeah, there are some who consciously or less than consciously are agents of chaos and confusion. Yeah, and I stand by that. And I stand by that, and they're doing damage. Am I saying that they're not going to go back to Godhead and eat Gulabjamins with Krishna? I'm not saying that. I'm not judging what's in their heart. At the same time, sure, based on externals, like I'm not so connected with Super Soul that I see what's really happening with you. But, based on my understanding of Prabhupada and common sense, based on actions, I'll determine my boundaries. And that's it. And so that's like right now, we're in association with about 25 sincere souls. And I'm just like, I'm ecstatic in this association. And as far as accepting Prabhupada as the current link, I mean, that's one dimension. I'll say another thing. There are those who regard themselves as Prabhupada Nugas, like Prabhupada is the current link, and I don't allow them into my home. Okay. I don't let them come to my program. I'm not going to get into it. But I'm saying what someone gives lip service to, because they'll come and preach to everyone and everyone wants to go away. And so there's different dimensions. And so each of us, our opportunity and responsibility is to determine how to relate with different individuals, whether they identify themselves as a bhakti yogi or an atheist, how to relate with different individuals, such that everyone's uplifted and enlivened. As far as devotee association, here's the thing. Of course, here we are. It's not theoretical. Here we are. There's about 25 of us between online, and this is devotee association. I'm in life. And here's the thing. We want to, I remember this was in 2017. I was at Anandadam. It's in the mountains of Switzerland, kind of on the border of Italy. It's run by a beautiful devotee named Sri-Caitanya-caritamrta. And he participated in Software Foundational Advanced in Navadvip 2006. And I was there with Anandini and Paramatma and Yogeshwar, Anuragini and Ladini, and like that. There was a team of us. And it was right after a set of courses, Savatov courses. And anyhow, they invited me to give a lot of talks, including on these topics. And at one point they were asking me, it's like, well, do you like to go around and look for sadhus to associate with, because in their community, that's a big thing. They would like go to India or California or wherever and look for sadhus to associate with. So they asked me about that. And I said, no, I never did that, never do that, never thought about it. And they were like shocked. They were like, really? That's like the main thing we do. I say, no. My focus is how can I serve Srila Prabhupada? And whatever association comes from that, then I'm joyful in that association. Maybe some of that association, they're pure devotees. Maybe maybe they're neophyte, whatever. I'm just looking to serve Srila Prabhupada. And here's the thing, yeah, we want to seek out association that's enlivening, that deepens our enthusiasm and joy and inspiration to engage in bhakti. Yeah, and we want to come to a consciousness, we want to come to a point where we're not needy for association. Now, we don't want to artificially imitate that, and I want what I'm understanding to be said in context. But yeah, we want to, again, like I love, this is just amazing, and I get to do this like so often, and wonderful association. And I want to cultivate a consciousness where I'm steadily increasing in my enthusiasm for practicing sadhana. And the only association I have is me and Srila Prabhupada. Me, Srila Prabhupada, and chanting Hare Krishna. Okay, so we don't want to imitate that. Okay, we don't want to imitate that. At the same time, we do want to come to that point where that's my only dependency. We don't want to use that as an excuse to like criticize others and it's just like me and Prabhupada, and who cares about that? No, we want to seek out association, but if it just so happens that circumstance we're on a desert island and it's me and Prabhupada and Prabhupada's books, I'm good. I'm good. I'm complete. And let's seek out association like we're doing this not tonight or tomorrow morning that supports us to go there, that supports us to go there. And maybe we'll never actually, be in that, but that's like, yeah, so like for myself, yeah, that's it. So like, we don't want to be dependent on association other than chanting Hare Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. And if we are dependent on association, let's not pretend we're not, but that's what it means. That's my way of being a guru, to support you to come to that point where in your personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada, as you're linked to Krishna, I'm complete, I'm good. And from that, yeah, I'm inspired to associate with others who inspire me and I inspire them. Hare Krishna. I think we'll bring philosophy class and discussion to a close. I know I'm hosting the program, at the same time I'm inclined to ask what's next in the program. We'll have a closing kirtan and prasadam. Yeah, I'm not, what's next?
That's kirtan and prasadam.
Kirtan and prasadam. And I will mention, just before we started the program at 5:30 p.m. Eastern today, we got a special delivery.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Is that a sweet birthday gift or not? I mean, or what? It was 36 prasadam donuts magically appearing. The source was Europe or something like that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. 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 I was going to ask your wife to lead kirtan, and she's not here.
Rohini, you want to kirtan?
Oh, you're doing kirtan.
Okay. Grandpa, would you like to leave?
Yeah, or somebody else wants to work? Said that you want to do that?
I don't know, but.
You're not ready? Don't worry. Right, I'll leave you. Somebody else jumps to it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama Hare Hare